Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Metaphysical Hour. I almost forgot what I was doing here. That's nothing new. Happy New Year! What
Yay!
caught me was because he did the countdown, and I'm thinking, New Year! Hooray! I
She was,
forgot.
she
It's
was
the
ready to throw
hour.
streamers and
And I'm me being
uh-huh.
like this. I'm being completely me. I'm Julia, and this is normal for me. And Tracie Mahan.
Hello everyone.
And we have a special guest tonight, and we'll bring her on in just a second. But Tracie, first of all, let's what exciting what yesterday? Can I announce that?
Sure.
Yesterday was Tracie's birthday, so she's a New Year baby.
I am a New Year baby. Yes. Happy New Year. Happy birthday. It just gets happy. Real happy.
Absolutely, that's what we said in the beginning. I wanted to kind of repeat that. It was Happy New Year, Happy Birthday, happy. So we're just
Yeah, everybody was in it. Everybody was getting happy.
mhm.
So no better way to raise your frequency than just get happy. So
That
that's
sounds
a
like a
song, right?
song. Like be happy, isn't it?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Sing it. Maybe we'll figure it out.
Don't worry. Be happy.
Okay. Thank you.
Da, 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 da.
If that didn't bring everybody up, I don't know what would.
Yeah,
Except for when it gets
maybe,
out on video, that's going to bring
maybe
everybody
they're
up a
gonna be
notch.
laughing. I don't mind being the
Hmm.
subject that you laugh at. Just go ahead, laugh at me as long as
So,
it's bringing your frequency up.
we have this theme where we kind of talk about random stuff
Hmm.
before we kind of really get into it. And we're going to make it quick because we have a fantastic
Yeah.
show.
Yes.
But can you tell people about your camel?
Oh my gosh. No. I love my camel. Okay, I was in Egypt. I just got back from Egypt, and when I was there, um, I met up with an old friend of mine. I mean, like ancient friend. Um, when one of my many sessions that I had with my mother, um, I had a camel. I showed up in the desert, and I had a long robe on, and I was holding on to. I had a camel like right over here over my right shoulder, and that guy was my best friend. I mean, I loved that camel. I remember that from the session,
Hmm.
and I was walking in front of him. I would just always be kind of that we were just best friends. Anyway, in Egypt, we were doing some filming for some different things, just promos and just different information videos that we're doing. And off in the not too far away, there was this guy with two camels, and this one camel just there was something about him, and I was like, he needs to be in this shot. And I just felt this connection to him immediately, and he was talking to me like, I want to be there with you, I want to be in that shot. So brought him over, and I got the whole visual. They were showing me hold him just like you held the one before. And when he came up to me, I recognized him, and
Oh,
it was so cool. So anyway, I'm holding him just like I was holding him in the other life, and it was an instant connection. We're talking, and I said something about, it's wonderful to be here with these wonderful beings, and that how I was connected to him and everything. And he leans down and he nudges my head. I mean, I couldn't
gives you a
believe it.
little camel kiss right on the top of the head in the video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
It's
what wasn't
wonderful.
in that video that's out right now is right after that, he did kiss me. And
Oh,
yeah, it was, oh my gosh. And so that'll probably come out in another video, but instant connection, instant recognition, I think on both parts.
yeah, it
So
sounds like it was pretty mutual.
it was,
So,
my
as
God. I
you,
know, isn't it adorable? I melt every time I see that. But that's my camel.
yes, and that is just a glimpse of the experience people have on these trips. And so that was just something I wanted to bring out because we could share story after
Mhm.
story of the connections. And I mean, I've been hearing from a lot of people that were on that Egypt trip,
Yeah.
and I swear I experienced these things through the osmosis version of it because I've gotten so many different stories and what has happened on these trips and people connecting and the energy.
Oh,
And I'm just saying,
the energy. I mean,
amazing.
I've been saying this about a lot of places about all the places we've been going lately, and that will segue into our guest tonight.
Yes.
But the places we've been going to this year, about it being off the charts, and it's like there's no describing what was going on in Egypt. In fact, it took me a full week at least before I started even feeling like I was, after I got back and I'm trying to process and I was just gone. The things that were happening to us over there, I don't know what all happened. All I'm saying is I know I've been processing for a good week since I've been back, and it was just, and it's constant. And I talked to Kaya today, and he was talking about some things that are happening to him that are completely new, and it all started over there too. And so these just keep opening up these doors, and it's probably because, one, the places that they are, and then two, they're telling me, you know it.
You know it.
Doors that it's opening these are doors that were started way back, and then this is completion stuff. We're finishing or we're continuing. That's a better word. Continuing what we started many generations, eons, whatever you want to call
lifetimes,
it.
all of it.
Lifetimes ago. I mean, and oh my gosh, it's just amazing.
Well, I have a feeling we know what we're doing our next show on.
Yeah, we've got to.
Let's bring on our guest. Let's not make anybody wait any longer.
And this is like I was saying, it's a segue for our guest because I actually got wonderful information from her. Let's see, a little over a year ago. She actually did, but I think it's astrocartography. Am I right, Tamara?
You're right, yes.
Okay. And that's where, she did this wonderful chart for me, and then she puts it on the map of the earth. And it's like, and shows like where are good places to go energetically and for different things. And she'll explain that better probably. But she did that for me and for Kaya and kind of overlaid them to find the best places that would be really good for us to be going to do things. And that's a big part of what we use in our deciding and stuff is we know we want places, but then we look and it's like, okay, was this it's just funny because the places we want to go are good places that were on our chart.
So you're naturally drawn to it. It's absolutely very cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so, it's been one of, like I said, each one is like it stacks on the other one, and we're getting growth. We're getting things that we never even imagined possible for us personally, as well as for QHHT. So anyway, without further ado, so it's like, I just want you to know that I can personally vouch for Tamara. Okay.
Yeah. Wonderful. I've had a brief session with her too, and I will do the same. Okay. Bring her on.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I'm going to give you a little bit. This bio, it came off of Tamara's website. But I can guarantee you it's just like touching the tip of the iceberg of who she is and what she does, and just the magnificence of Tamara. So she's working in the field of astrology and a teacher of being yourself. I love that. Reiki master, a certified yoga in RYT. I don't know what RYT is, but I'm just impressed that yoga and a practitioner of sound. So you're into sound healing, I guess, or just working with sound. We'll let her explain that in a second. But anyway, she's dedicated to connecting ancient wisdom. We were just talking about that. In the modern world through teaching classes, speaking engagements, workshops, one-on-one consultations, and a weekly blog. As a lifelong learner and teacher, she opens up new perspectives for herself and others through her work. Anyway, I am just so thrilled and honored to bring on Tamara McIlvray. See, it's not, don't make it weird like I just did it. McIlvray.
Make it weird.
I had to think about it. See, I went to the head and it messed it all up.
I do it every time. Yeah.
Professional astrologer and dear friend. I love you, Tamara. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. This is the the perfect time to do an astrological outlook, being the beginning of the year. And happy solar return for the person who just had the birthday. Wow.
Yeah,
that's pretty
Tracie.
magnificent. Yeah.
Yes.
So we call it a solar return because the sun has returned to its place of birth.
Oh.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
what does that mean?
Well, like the sun rotates through each sign, and when it's your birthday, it actually returns right back to the spot that it was at by degree and by sign at your birth. So we call it a solar return. It happens every year.
Oh.
Okay.
That sounds fancy.
Yeah.
I like that.
It does.
It's
Much
a fancy name for happy birthday.
Yeah. That's nice. I'll take it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So Tamara, before we get into some of your projections and your things going on for 2020 and just other information that you want to share, I always want to know how people got to where they are, how they got into this, because this is not your everyday career, everyday thing. And so, were you always into astrology and metaphysics and such weird things?
Yes. Well, yes, I think I was born this way because I am a little far out there. But I started very young, like everybody else, looking at their little horoscopes. And, I did a lot of metaphysical work when I was younger and just grew and grew with that. And then I actually went to Kepler College when it was a degree-granting college. And I did a 4-year stint there. And now I teach at Kepler College. So I do some teaching there, and I help on their board of directors and all that. But my true love is more than astrology. It's incorporating astrology into our everyday lives. And I love you guys talking about, really increasing your energy, taking your energy to new heights, because that's how I use astrology. I talk about it as being skilled and unskilled behavior, and how we can incorporate those skilled and unskilled energies, take it to the next level and be our best person, and use it as that kind of tool. So as you were saying, I actually do energy work. I do some Reiki. I do some sound work with sound bowls and meditation and mantras and all that kind of fun stuff. So I kind of have my fingers in a lot of different things. But astrology is definitely one of my first loves, for sure.
Very cool. But yeah, you're heavily into astrology. So
I am. A little obsessed.
I mean, you're not just playing on the periphery.
It sounded like a dabbling, but yes, let's put it on the table.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a little obsessed, yeah.
Yeah, because that was what I was thinking about it just a while ago about, like when you did my chart and you're talking about the nodes and, the north node and the south node and this node here. And it's like, I don't even know what a node is.
Yeah,
much
I don't
less.
know what you're talking about.
And exactly. We have north and south and all these things, but apparently they are very important.
They are. They are. Actually, what we do in astrology is we take a snapshot of a moment in time, and we take a snapshot of the sky and where all the planets are and what sign they're in and what degree they're in. And we do a bunch of mad math, and we take that 3D or 4D picture and we put it on a 2D piece of paper, just a piece of flat paper. And it's a really symbolic process. So it's this process of as above, so below. It's very cyclic, as you know. You're talking about, ancient cycles and your wonderful story of the camel. And then, you've come back. This is a new cycle where, the two of you are at two different levels, but yet you still connect with that cycle of being together. And that's kind of what we do with astrology. We look at it symbolically. There's like 5,000 years or more of written observation, and we take that observation and we apply it to modern times, and we try to interpret it in a way that people can live their best life and live in a skilled way as opposed to living in fear.
Did you say there was 5,000 years of history of astrology?
Written observation, yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. Yes, fascinating. And that's why I'm a little obsessed. You know, you get into that and you're like, that's a deep dive when you go there.
So that way you appeal to the scientific minded people that want all that
background,
to proof back there as well as everybody. I love what you said about not living in fear. And so is that, I mean, like I feel like that's one of my missions on this planet is to dispel fear, get people to, to understand not to go there. It's not necessary. It's just an entertainment tool and, and one that we get lost in a lot. But I love that from what it sounds like, from what you're saying with astrology is what I'm seeing anyway, it lights the path. So that way you can see further ahead of you, which helps dispel fear, because it's usually it's the darkness, it's the unknown that we fear, what makes us afraid. We don't know what's coming. And so this kind of helps give some little guidance. I mean, how much guidance can you get through astrology?
Well, actually, it's pretty in depth. You can use it as a tool for self-realization, to look within yourself and look at the tools that you brought in to deal with your life and how you can move forward, in a positive, skillful way. And also you can use it as a predictive technique. So what we do when we look at, what's going on in 2020, and there's a lot of stuff out there. Oh my gosh, like if you go on and you Google astrology 2020, there's thousands of people with thousands of ideas on what's up and coming. So what they're doing is they're using it as a predictive technique to look at upcoming planetary configurations, the night sky, what's upcoming, but they're really making a best guess. So when you're reading that information, it's not verbatim, it's not set in stone, and also you have to realize that there's a skilled and unskilled level of receiving that information. So they're using this best guess on the planetary combinations. We hope that they're using a little bit of historical data when they're making those best guesses, a little bit of the 5,000 years of observation. But through that, able to say that, this is a cycle. So don't, this too will end. The next cycle will come and the next cycle will come. And we have all of these wonderful, beautiful cycles embedded in who we are as human beings, from, the cycle of weather, the cycle of government, the cycle of human development. So it's all cycles. And if you start to understand that and you can start to apply that to your own cycles, then you become more wise, more skilled, and you can walk into those upcoming events without fear, without going, oh my God, the world's going to end, because that's what happens, when we get scared, when we read, oh my God, what does, sometimes I have students and they'll Google something and they don't even look at what they Googled or who, wrote it, and all of a sudden now they're in turmoil for a week until I can calm them down and readjust their thinking.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful. Thank you for that. Really helps put a really good perspective on it.
Tamara, when is the end of the world? Yeah. I'm just kidding.
Well, I was going to ask you a different way. Because you brought it up, and so not that we want, because I don't know that there is an end. And so, but if there were going to be one, would it be displayed? Would the stars say that? Would there be something there that would indicate that?
No.
Perfect.
Absolutely
Therefore, no one can predict
somebody
the end.
says, we cannot predict the end. Absolutely not. And, some planetary movements that are going on, we each have our snapshot signature that we come in with that, explains or gives us symbolic reference to how we love, how we communicate, how we organize ourselves, how we action things. And then, of course, that snapshot gets experiences through the today's movement of the stars. So sometimes the movement of the stars hit directly on your personal birth, configurations. So then that energy is like really amplified for you. And then other times it manifests through the environment. So from people around you, maybe your partner, you experience it kind of indirectly through economic conditions, or the country that you're living in may have some conditions that are amplified. So there's many ways that we experience it, and we really can't fear that. It's you have to hold that higher level of energy, that skilled way of receiving, and then kick it really hard. Like really use that information to be the best you. That's what I love to do with astrology, and I think that's what keeps me, really embedded in astrology.
Wow.
And then this is one of the things I love about you, Tamara, is your groundedness, because it could be so easy in this field, in this world, to get really flighty, and I think that's kind of what people are known for, being out there. I mean, you say you're out there, but you're grounded.
I'm grounded out there.
Grounded out there.
If that's possible.
You're rooted in that fairy tale land that you're in. Wonderful.
Yes.
Okay, so because this time is going to go really fast.
Right.
Yes, it is actually.
I know that there's something. I read something online about this. I guess this period, like right coming up here. There's something supposed to be going on, but otherwise, what is it you really want people to know about? How do you want to present this? The table's yours.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I thought about this. I thought about how can we explain this cyclic process, and 2020 is actually, as we know, the beginning of a new decade. And I think why we really love the new year, why we love to celebrate this new year, is because it's like turning a new page. So it's like a symbolic turning of a new page. It's the New Year's Eve. You're embarking on, what might come up tomorrow. I think that it's an opportunity to right the ship. We've got all this baggage, this heavy weight that we carried all year, and this 2019 has seemed to be quite a heavy year for a lot of people. So, I think that's because of this turning a new page of a decade, not just a year. So symbolically, you let go of these old processes, you sweep away the old. You do that in order to be able to embrace new. Now, again, I want you to remember that everything is cyclic. So when you hear this, like we've got this really heavy astrological combination coming up, and it's actually a process that only happens once every 33 years. So we can go back through history and we can see what kind of things have come out of this type of conjunction, we call it, when the planets come together.
Do my math.
Or 7. When was 33 years ago? Is that 77?
Well, no, it was actually the last
87.
time this specific. What's that? 87. Yeah.
87.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, my math.
So, or 80. No, I'm sorry, 82.
Calculator.
So the last time we had this particular conjunction was 82, 47, and 14. So, different months making the 33-year cycle kind of coming to fruition. But the whole process, it means that we've lived through it before. That's the first thing I want to tell everybody. The world didn't end. We actually did live through this before, and we did okay. We reinvented ourselves. We turned the new page, and on a collective level, it's hard to change. Think about that. When we're asked to make a change, we struggle with that, and that's why it seems so heavy, and why people talk about sort of the doom and gloom of it. It's because it's hard to change. But if we take this as, hey, we can turn a new page, we can right the ship, we can put things in place to make our life better and embrace the change, then, things are not so doom and gloom. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the upcoming trend. it's kind of a double whammy, and this is why people talk about it being so extreme this year, is that on January 10th, we actually have a lunar eclipse. So we had a solar eclipse at Christmas on the 25th, and now our first eclipse of the year is going to be January 10th. And then just a couple days later, we actually experienced this big conjunction of these two heavy hitters in our astrology called Saturn and Pluto. So they're going to have a little meeting of the minds, and it's all within this kind of, there's like the sun is there, so the giver of life, and, you know, how we express ourselves, and Saturn is about organization and, creating boundaries. He can also be about fear. So that's kind of the fear factor that has come in, because if, you know, what is fear? Fear is false evidence appearing real. It's manifestation. So it's your perspective, how you look at things and how you see them sort of solidify. So these two really powerful events, a lunar eclipse, which is a full moon, by the way. That's a full moon that just has this special connection with the Earth. We have eclipses a few times a year, and they kind of set the stage for the whole year. So they give us this sort of a bigger insight into larger, more long-term goals. You know, we have a new and a full moon every month. So those are our little glimpses into our everyday goals that we're setting that, you know, kind of work towards those bigger goals. And then these eclipses show us the bigger goals and how are we achieving them and what are we doing. Well, a lunar eclipse, a full moon, is when the whole sky lights up. So we actually get some insight into those goals that we're working on. When we're looking at the full moon, we're saying, ooh, what's in that dark corner? How come I haven't achieved that goal? And then, of course, the gratitude of all the goals that you've achieved. So these are some things that you want to do during eclipse. You want to take a moment and you want to do a little bit of gratitude. You want to take a hard look at what has not been accomplished and why, and sort of reflect on what ideas and goals do you really want to accomplish this year. So that's what I do during an eclipse. I actually take the time to do some journaling and kind of look at symbolically, you know, because we always get those sort of synchronistic moments and little tidbits of information coming through on those goals that we're trying to accomplish. So this is what we can use this time for. And there's some other things that are coming up during this time period as well, during this eclipse. This kind of give us a little shake. It's like, you know, come on, get rid of those outworn goals. Troubleshoot what
I like
new
how you said a little
ways,
shake, but in my head I felt like I got really pummeled.
Just a little tiny shake, not a hard shake.
Yeah.
Just a little tiny shake, so that we can say, hey, you know, what do I need to do here? What innovative ways can I reinvigorate those goals? Which is like so apropos for the first of the year. Because, you know, we made all of these resolutions. I resolve to do this. I resolve to do that. I'm going to, you know, get my body in shape. I'm going to get to that next level. I'm going to infuse my life with this. So we have all these wonderful goals we set at the beginning of the year. Now, you know, 10 days in, we have this beautiful eclipse happening that's going to light the sky up, and we're going to say, well, if I want to achieve that goal, what do I need to do? I need to find an innovative way to get me to exercise every day, or to eat right, or to, you know, to do those things you need to do. So I think that that it's a really great time to kind of look at those things. Now, you also want to revisit those goals in 90 days. I just want to throw out an idea to you guys. April 5th is going to be 90 days from the eclipse, and I want you to revisit your notes. So all the notes that you've made about a little sort of synchronistic moments and the goal thoughts that you had, take that 90-day mark and go, okay, where am I? Where am I at here? So that's what you're going to do with the eclipse. And then, like I said, just 2 days after that eclipse, we have that great Pluto-Saturn conjunction that everybody is writing about, absolutely everybody. So I'm just going to break that down. Pluto, because everybody talks about Pluto, Pluto, especially astrologers. It's going to, really give us some, hard transformation. But what is transformation? Pluto is about sort of collective control and power, and it's the act of change. But what is the act of change? I love to describe this process as when oh my gosh, what is he? He is a caterpillar, that's right. When the caterpillar puts himself into the cocoon and he completely melts himself down into this like soupy mix. And then he doesn't have any ego about what he's going to look like. He doesn't say, oh, I got to look like this, or I still want to look like the caterpillar I was, because I was so fluffy and cute. He's like, no, I'm going to let this process just come about as it's supposed to. I'm going to let myself ride the wave. I'm going to rebuild myself into this incredible, better being. And I'm not going to have an ego about it. And that's really the trick to the Pluto deal is that you just allow what is going to be, but, of course, on a higher level. You're not going to be fearful about it. You're just going to allow yourself to change into this beautiful, beautiful butterfly. And it's having this meeting.
When you say it, it sounds easy, but...
What's that?
I was saying, when you say it like that, it sounds easy, but... it's like, well, and when I'm hearing, you said no ego about it, but it also sounds like no attachment to the outcome.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Because ego wants to control the outcome. Mm-hmm. I want it to look like this. The little ego, right? Not the big ego, the little ego. So
that's a security factor.
Yeah, there is for sure.
I want it to look good.
But if you think...
we don't want to come out that little mothy looking thing. We want to come out the beautiful butterfly, right?
Well, everything
all right, letting go of the attachment.
In its own way.
I've already started. Dang it.
So he's going to have this executive meeting with Saturn. And I don't know if you guys know that word, like if you've heard that word Saturn, that big planet out there. We've got those really massive rings. And he's about structure, manifestation. If we're going to manifest something, it's going to come from Saturn. Judgment, organization. Of course, I talked about fear and restriction and suppression, but, only when restriction is sort of applied to fear. If you really have control, the only person you have control over is yourself, right? So once you kind of get that, and it's like your reaction to things, it's like how you control your own reaction, how you control your own growth. If you can do that, then, you don't really have that restriction and suppression because, you just have so many other tools that you can work with that. So these guys are in this executive meeting and they are, creating an opportunity for us to really get control over the things that we manifest. Now, of course, the Pluto end of it, I said, oh, you've got to let go and just allow it to be. Yes, you do have to allow it to be, but not in a wild and crazy way. It's the structure of the universe, the structure of how we manifest things, using magical intent, which is really intent and focus, to do things is really the way to think about this. So the one thing that I want everyone to get from today's talk is to look at having control of false money. So we've heard a lot probably from the general astrology populace that that money may be an issue, that we may feel a shortage of money. But really what I want us to think about is false money. And what is false money? It's credit cards. It's loans. It's debt. It's spending our paycheck before we make it, right? So what I want us to think about because this is the opportunity that's coming up. This is the what these two guys are coming together to show us and teach us, is that if you live outside of false money, if you live in sort of like that realistic day-to-day, I've earned this much, this is what I'm going to spend, I'm not going to get caught up in, because the credit card people, they just keep sending you more credit, right? And they'll, oh yeah, let me give you that loan, and oh yeah, here's another type of credit card, and here's another type of way to spend money. I want you to think about that you can actually have the opportunity to change and organize and manifest your money, which is, of course, what is money but the crystallization and the densest aspect of energy. So if you can get control of that, think of how powerful you become. If you're not sort of using false money and getting carried away with that, when things do, if things do tighten up, or, there's changes in how we do things as a community and as a country, then you won't have that fear factor because you haven't gotten yourself, out of that, out of control with false money. So the one thing I want you to remember is to look at false money, look at your false money personally, and see where can you make little changes, where can you tighten up a little bit, where can you be organized so that you don't fall into that big fear factor if things need to tighten up a little bit, if you need to tighten up your belt. Now, of course, the change, the ability to organize and manifest for each of us may be a little different because it depends on our own makeup. What snapshot of the sky do we have that we're working with? So each person will have something different. It might not be money. It might be, the home. It might be work. It's just there's so many. It might be in our partnerships and how we can create change and become more organized and more present in the moment, as opposed to, because false money is using money that's of tomorrow, or money that you made yesterday that you're now sort of riding the coattails of, or something like that. So it's really becoming present and aware of what you're doing right now and being really good with that, feeling really good about that. So sort of streamlining, sweeping out the dark corners, I talked about that wonderful full moon that we have, and not getting caught up in those sort of extremes that we're being asked to, that people are trying to sweep us away into these big, huge extremes of more credit, more, you can have a bigger house, you can have this, you can have that. And it doesn't mean that we can't have all those things, but we want to have them in the moment, not tomorrow, not on tomorrow's dime, or not on yesterday's dime, on today's dime. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. So are you saying that's already started, or that's coming with this January 10th or 12th thing?
Yeah. So that's, obviously, when you're looking at the sky, there's no kind of line in the sky. So you kind of get that energy that leads up to it. And then, of course, it doesn't happen on that day, that there just might be some real trigger, or even just you becoming very aware, kind of like awakened to, I spent too much at Christmas, or I spent too much last year, and it didn't feel good, and now I'm going to say,
that's called going to the mailbox. Oh no, what did I do?
Oh, geez, did I spend that? Yeah, for sure. So and then it just leads us into these events, because this dance in the sky that these guys are going to do is actually going to last all year. It's not like a one-time event. Yes, there is an event where they come together, and and then there's like all this symbolic information and wisdom we gain from that, and other planets kind of come and meet in there and move away and drop information, and we become more wise with that. But it is a dance that's going to happen all year. So as we become more conscious of this, then we, feel like we have more control, over it. But remember that we can't control others. The only thing we can control is ourselves. So that's that big dance that's going on. And I want everyone to not be, really afraid of that coming up. I think that it's something that we can walk into, wide awake.
Yeah, and if people are aware that this is what we were talking about earlier, you get these little hints that this is coming up, then when you're more prepared. I mean, I'm always that way with Mercury retrograde. When I know Mercury retrograde's coming, it's like, okay, I know to say things twice and really enunciate and to double check, triple check. We're all going to the same location, the same, meeting at the same time, whatever it is, just to make sure communication is good. And it helps because I know it's Mercury retrograde. So, so this is kind of the same thing, I think, as this is coming. There's this money thing that might need to be looked at. And so when it shows up, then we're not taken off guard. So I love that.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely. Great. And it may be it may not be, physical money for you. It may be that you apply that to your partnerships, that you've just become more aware and grounded, and that you're not, working in relationships that are not real, that are not authentic. I think that one of the things that this is going to bring to us collectively is authenticity. We talk about that word, we throw authenticity around like it's water, but what does it really mean to be authentic? What does it mean to be really centered and aware and awake and living in the now? These are words we love to throw out, but how do we do that? This is opportunity where you really feel that grounding energy, that you can sit down and you can journal about it, and you can think, how can I set goals? How can I achieve goals that, are really true to me? This is the way to do it. Yeah. And speaking of retrograde,
I shouldn't have brought that up.
Well, it's much better to know they're up and coming, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So I thought that, not everybody knows what a retrograde is. So I thought I might talk a little bit about that. So, these planets, they move direct. They move, through the kind of, some are slow, some are fast. They're moving through the zodiac, and they're taking on, a planet has an essential nature. And when he moves through these signs, sometimes he can act more of his essential nature, and sometimes he struggles to be his essential nature because the sign he's in, is really, it's a hard script for him to work with. And when they get into these retrogrades, a retrograde is an inner spiral of energy. So, and as opposed to being direct and moving boom, boom, boom through, expressing themselves, they become inward. And it's about the re-word. So retrograde is redo, rethink, reinvestigate, reevaluate before you move forward with something new. So a retrograde is a really, really great time. First of all, check the fine print before you sign anything, right? Just like you said, you got to make sure, do you understand what I'm saying? Almost get feedback on a constant basis. Buying something used during a retrograde is really fantastic because something that someone else had has now become new to you, but you're reusing something. So that's wonderful. Wait for clarity during a retrograde. We have three retrogrades every year for Mercury. I will throw the dates out just so people can be aware. February 16th to March 9th, June 17th to July 12th, and October 13th to November 3rd. So those are our three retrogrades this year. And, Mercury is about our thinking process, our communication, our commerce, our transportation, short trips, that kind of thing. Number one thing that you want to do during a retrograde is back up all your computers and your phone and data. So before February 16th, make sure you back up all of your stuff. And then if something happens, it's like, oh, that's okay. I can rebuild that. It's all right.
Right.
Schedule.
So, Tamara, I'm over here watching Julia react, and I have a feeling you just listed off all of her classes for the upcoming year.
That's exactly right. Well, there are definitely big classes happening in each of those dates.
Excellent. Well,
put her mind at peace with how wonderful that's going to be for her.
Yes. Well, the thing is now she knows, so she's going to arrange things ahead of time and not on the fly.
Very
that's
good.
the deal.
Yeah.
So,
like you said,
you want to
communication, that's always so much fun to do a class in a retrograde.
Yes. But that inner spiral of energy, what a great class when, because really that's what you're doing. You're digging into this inner spiral and, to be able to access that. It's just the travel and the communication and that kind of thing that you're going to have to make sure that you kind of double check, dot your I's, cross your T's, make sure you're prepared, back up all of your data. But other than that, for a class that you do, it's really a great time to do that. And that's probably why you've intuitively picked those dates.
See?
Okay. So
there's a rainbow at the end of this.
Do it. Yeah.
There's a rainbow. There's the rainbow, yes. And, it's a great time to take a break from Facebook and Instagram. It's a great time to go through old emails and get rid of old emails, clean up your computer files, that kind of thing. Get yourself off of the list. We get 1,000 emails, and it's like you just delete. You didn't even read what it was. So maybe you need to get off those lists. It's a great time to kind of look at that. Are there apps you're paying for but not using? This is a perfect time to sit down and kind of go through those apps and make sure that again, that you're spending your money wisely, that you're doing with that dense energy what you should be doing with it, and that is bringing harmony and love and peace into your life, drawing the things towards yourself that you love, that make your life better and make your family's life better, not footing it off to credit card companies and and apps that you don't use. I guess would be a good way to look at that. So take those retrogrades to do that. There's another retrograde. We have 2 other retrogrades coming up that are really major this year we don't always have these every year, these other 2. So the first one is a Venus retrograde, and it's from May 13th to June 25th. And Venus is exactly what I was just talking about. It's about how you create or attract or value harmony. And what is harmony? Bringing harmony into your life is about love. It's having your voice heard and speaking in a way that others can hear you and receive your information. It's about beauty. It's about art. It's what you want to purchase in order to surround yourself with harmony. Everybody's idea of harmony is different. Some people it's partnerships. Other people it's art. Other people, everybody values different things. So it's about you take that retrograde, that inner spiral, and you really think about what it is that you want to draw towards yourself. And are you drawing towards yourself skilled things? It's actually Venus retrograde in Gemini, which is a very intellectual sign. So it's about, in that retrograde, sitting down and gathering information, writing down a plan where you're going to work on creating harmony within and then share it with others. And the last retrograde, the last thing I need to get out before because I know we're coming to the end here of the show, is the Mars retrograde, which we only have every couple of years. We have a Mars retrograde, and that's from September 9th to November 13th, and it's in Aries. And an unskilled Mars might be, getting angry or being resentment or having this gut reaction, but the skilled behavior in a Mars retrograde, in that inner spiral, is reviewing the situation before you act, finding resolution before you act, and planning your actions before you act, and think about what you can, what you can go out and get in the world and bring back to you in order to create harmony and beauty in your world. So those are some things that I want you guys to know, those dates, so that you can be prepared and use them to their highest level, and be skilled and enjoy all of this energy that that cycles through every year.
Wonderful.
So those were the major things I wanted to get out. So maybe some questions, if you have any questions about that. Or...
My brain is blown. My mind is just like, so, oh my gosh, all the information you just laid on us here.
Yeah,
well,
and
I
you did
knew
it
I
so
only had a little bit of time,
we
and I
just
needed
got
to
our
get all
minds
that
full
out.
and a perfect map of how to navigate this year.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I wanted to just ask, because I think a lot of people don't understand that. So like a full moon energy, whatever the date the full moon lands on, people are like, oh, this day, and they go right to that day. So if it was today, January 3rd, but one of the things you were saying is that the energy builds up. So we're in that energy a day or two before we actually get to the full moon energy, right? We have a little shadow time between the days.
And after. And
after.
So nothing happens on the date. So you don't want to depend on, oh, well, I don't have to do anything until that date, because then you'll be hit with, well, why do I feel like this? Why do I have all this energy hitting me and feeling this buildup? So it's there is no line in the sky. You're just kind of drawing into, and it builds, and then you have, some, maybe a little bit of clarity and some insight, and then, then it wanes and it goes, kind of draws away from you. And that energy, kind of takes place in your life. And when you have the big eclipses, it's a little longer, right? Like we're already here we are, the 3rd, we're already building to the 10th where that eclipse will happen. But we're in it now, and, we have been for a little bit.
I was going to say, because the things that you were talking about happening, I feel like I'm already having impulses to do, and the energies are already starting to build there. So I wonder how much ahead it starts coming in.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, an eclipse can be, you think about, we're having 3 eclipses this year. So 3 eclipse seasons, we'll call them, because you have a solar eclipse, which is the sun. It's a new moon, right? A sun moon. And then the lunar eclipse, which is, so the solar eclipse is more external when you take things out into the world. It's a new moon, new ideas, new strategies. And then the lunar eclipse is the full moon, and that's more about reflecting on goals and reflecting on things and what direction do I need to go in order to achieve things. So those are bigger, bigger events. They last longer. They're going to last months, as opposed to a new and full moon, which is just, the one month and just a few days. So these eclipses, they can take, a whole 3 weeks or a month as they lead into them, and one builds off the other. So as astrologers, we sort of track, these eclipses as they move through and how they join in together and how they build over the year, for sure.
Fantastic. Well, that's perfect explanation on that. That is wonderful. Tamara, we have like 1 minute.
I know.
How can people find you if they want to get with you, have more information, whatever, if they want to pick your brain? Because I know, like I said, we've just barely touched the tip of the iceberg of what you know and who you are.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I actually, if they want to email me, they can email me at astro@tamara.ca. So ASTRO @Tamara, TAMIRA.ca. And I have a little sheet that I kind of built up here that I can send out to them, so that, if they missed a date or something and they're like, oh, what did she say? I can send that out, and it has a little bit of information on it. I don't mind doing that. And of course, they can go to my website, navigatingthestars.ca, and there's, we do personal work. We do, I do have a group of girls that I work with that work as a team. Or if they want to see me personally, they can also request a personal consult with me as well. So that would be wonderful. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well,
that was an amazing show. Thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you again so much for being with us, Tamara. I would love to have you back.
Thank you for asking. Anytime. I'll come back anytime. That would be wonderful.
Oh, wonderful.
Well, starting to see a regular. No.
Anyway, everyone, we love you and Happy New Year. So glad to be back on this first Friday in the new year. So
first show.
Yeah, absolutely. First show of the year. And I am so excited with this information on board now.
Now, we brought up all the classes that are coming up in the Mercury retrogrades. How do they get signed up for those, Julia?
Yeah, go to qhhtofficial.com and you can find our whole list of classes. We're still developing them out, but we're all over the world again in our noted spots that are recommended to us as the right places to be. So know that they are good places when we go there, high energy places.
Yeah.
Anyway, we love you. And Tracie, how can they find you? Because we got to go.
TracieMahan.com. You guys have been finding me, and thank you. I love you all. Thank you.
Love you, everyone. And thank you, Tamara. And good night, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.